All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachah Wadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you I say shalom. This is the brother Yeshaya coming at you again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. And the title of this lesson will be Keep Your Eye on the Prize. Okay. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start off with 2 Corinthians 4:17. And it reads, For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. Right. So it says, for our light affliction, because we understand that in this walk, we're going to be going through certain tribulations, certain tests, temptation, certain obstacles, that we in the spirit and in the flesh have to overcome, on this side, right? We're always being tested. We always put, to the fire, the scriptures talk about, as gold is tried in the fire, so is acceptable men in the furnace of adversity, roughly paraphrasing, right? So we're going to have to go through these trials in order for us to reach, into that kingdom, but this light affliction, like it says, is but for a moment. This is temporal, this condition that we're in, right? This battle that we're fighting, is for a moment, because in the end, once everything is said and done, once this man is taken down, then we're going to be allowed rest, right? We're going to receive a reward for what we did on this side. You see? Now, being here, in this present time, it can be taxing on the body, taxing on the mind. It can wear you down, right? But the scriptures talk about, as a matter of fact, it's just up one verse, right? Let me read it. Verse 16, 2 Corinthians 4:16. It says, For which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. You see? Now, I'm going to read this in the NLT. It says, this is why we never give up. You see, the point is to never give up, never faint, right? It says, because, the scriptures talk about, he that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved, right? Those that endure and make it all the way to the end, not giving up on the Lord, not giving up their faith, not giving up their integrity, right? These are the men that are going to receive, those new bodies. They're going to receive that crown of righteousness. You see? But it says right here in verse 16 in the NLT, that is why we never give up. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits are being renewed day by day. How's that happening? Through this word. Even though we got to go to work, we deal with the elements, we deal with, certain trouble, in the flesh. We are constantly being, built up in the spirit. You see, by us applying the wisdom, by us, staying, being steadfast to the Lord, ultimately, we are moving from glory to glory, even though it might be little increments at a time, and it might not seem like you're seeing any progress, but best believe if you're continually applying wisdom, best believe growth is happening. Not every brother has his own portion, but the point is if you continue in the way that you're going, continuing in the path, every step that you take, the more closer you are to the kingdom of heaven, right? And plus, every day that passes by, we're getting closer and closer to the return of the Lord, right? So in this time, we got to be, on lock. We got to be, focused. And as a matter of fact, that's going to lead me to, and I'll come back to this real quick, but I want to get this. Matthew 6:22. It says, The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Right? Meaning you got to keep your eye focused on what's important. You got to keep the priority the priority. You know, like the elders and the apostles say, you got to keep the main thing, right? The kingdom of heaven takes precedence, takes priority. You know, it's I can't even think of another word, but pretty much it takes pretty much that's a priority you got to make in your life. You know, nothing else should be put in the forefront before the Lord, before this word, you know, before this ministry, right? But let me go back. This is a 2 Corinthians 4 and verse 18 in the King James. It says, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen, right? For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal, right? Because the things that we're seeing right now, everything around us is about to be on fire. It's about to be destroyed, right? 2 Peter, the 3rd chapter, talks about how the elements shall melt with fervent heat, right? Meaning everything you see around you is going to be melted. So you trying to, you know, take hold of some form of, I don't know, whatever it might be, you know, material gain or some type of glory on this side, it's not going to last long, because the fashion of this world is passing away. These things that we're seeing right now is temporal, right? But it says, but the things which are not seen are eternal. And what's that? The kingdom of heaven. Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua has promised us that we will reign forever. That the kingdom that's coming, we're going to be kings. We're going to be on top, right? But on this side, it's going to require a sacrifice for us to make it out of that destruction and be the first fruits to enter into the kingdom of heaven, right? AKA the elect. You know, because we don't want to partake in the judgment that's about to happen here on this side, right? Just as when you read, you know, the story of Noah and the flood, who would want to partake in the flood? And people read that and be like, oh, those people were stupid. Those people are idiots for not listening to Noah. Well, look at now, man. Ain't nobody listening to the prophets. Noah was a prophet. Ain't no one, even in this day, no one's listening to the prophets, man. The scriptures talk about how, as in the days of Noah, right? They were drinking and giving into marriage and all this and that, right? Well, the same thing is going on now. Ain't no one paying attention to what we're saying. We're telling you that the America's about to be destroyed by fire, and Jake is still lollygagging. Jake is still in this la spirit, man. You see? But anyway, let me go back to Matthew 16, because another one I want to get in here. Matthew 16 and verse or Matthew 6, Salakia. In verse 19 it says, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal, right? So everything here is not guaranteed, right? Somebody can come in and steal your shit. You can get killed, you know, for wearing jewelry and, you know, and being all flashy and shit, right? Scriptures, I mean, not the scriptures, but, you know, it's a saying in the world, right? With more money comes more problems. More money, more problems, right? And especially in these days that we're coming into, let's believe rich people are going to be hunted down for their wealth, their gold, their silver, their resources, right? Food, whatever. But it says, verse 20, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal, right? And that's talking about the kingdom of heaven. Right now, that's what brothers is doing. Brothers is constantly stacking up their spiritual shekels, man. Building up that bank account for whenever, you know, the terrible times come. You know, it's almost like a piggy bank. You know what I'm saying? You have your piggy bank. You know, you constantly saving up money for when the time gets rough. Boom, you can tap into that. Well, the same thing here. When times get rough, we can tap into, that account and, withdraw some money, for troubled times. But also, we're stacking some of this stuff up for the kingdom of heaven, because as brothers and elders or apostles and elders been saying, you know, uh, 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 the works that you do on this side, you're not going to be rewarded on this side. Well, maybe you might receive a little, little thing here or there, but the true reward ain't going to come until the kingdom of heaven. Brothers doing all these videos, all this edification, all this work, that reward is going to be in the kingdom of heaven. The earth can't contain, the the reward that the Most High wants to give us for this for the work that we do. Right? So we're gonna have to be patient and wait until the kingdom of heaven. We're gonna have to endure everything that's thrown our way until we get up out of here, man. You see, but verse 21 it says, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." You see, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So if your treasure is here on earth, that's where your heart's gonna be, and that's where that's where you see 2/3 is, or 2/3 mind at, man. They're locked in here on earth. Talking about, the new job, getting a promotion, talking about getting this new car, getting this new house, getting this, getting that, doing this, doing that. But you gotta, like I said, the fashion of this world is about to pass away. So why would you tie yourself down to a sinking ship? Anybody that has common sense, will see the Titanic, right? The Titanic is sinking and people are just staying on board. Nah, you gotta get off ship. Otherwise, you're gonna sink right along with it, and that's what we're about to see. A lot of people sink with the ship, all because they lack. First of all, they lack the vision. Second of all, they just don't believe in what the prophet is saying. They lack the capacity to perceive beyond America. A lot of Jake feels like this is the end all be all, and that several generations is gonna pass, and they're gonna raise up their kids and celebrate Christmas and throw birthday parties, and you know what I'm saying? They're gonna take their kids to school. They're gonna grow up, have grandchildren, all this and that. No, man. This generation is over. We're seeing the signs that this is the end. You see? But the point being, again, is that we got to keep our eye on the prize. Don't let anything distract you. Don't let anything steer you away. The scriptures talk about, let no man take thy crown. Let me get that. Bear with me. Right here. Revelation 3 and verse 11. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Right? Because ultimately, we are our worst enemies. And as a matter of fact, I want to get this. Oh, wait, hold on. I want to get the text, the commentary on this. Bear with me. Hold on, what verse is this? Oh, okay. Verse 11. Salakia. Oh, shit. Oh, we're up. All right, right here. It says, It says that no man take thy crown. It says if they have failed to hold fast, their crown might be given to another. The idea is not that it might be stolen by another, but given. It says this was not a crown of royalty given because of royal birth. This was a crown of victory. Yahushua encouraged his saints to finish their course with victory, to play the second half just as strongly as they played the first half. Right, you gotta constantly be working, be diligent, right, to make your calling and election sure. But it says, never forget that the man most likely to steal your crown is yourself. See, like I said, you are your worst enemy. It says, keep thy heart with all thy diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. You are in no greater danger from anyone or anything than from yourself. Exactly, man. Right? That's why you got to examine yourself constantly, as the scripture says. Examine yourself whether you be in the truth. Right? That examination has to be on a daily basis, man. As soon as you wake up, man, throw up your prayers. Make sure you're in the right state of mind. You know what I'm saying? And throughout your whole day, constantly, apply wisdom. Constantly walk in the spirit. You see? But anyway, what was I gonna get? Let me go back. All right, I already got that. Let me reread this. 2 Corinthians 4 and verse 18. It says, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen, for the things which are seen are temporal. Right? Everything here is temporary. So don't, fix your sight or fix your gaze on what you see around you. Right? Like the scripture says, remember Lot's wife. She turned around and looked back at the world, looked back at what she was about to lose over there in the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Because she had a lot of wealth, or they had Lot had a lot of wealth, And what happened was, Salakia. But what happened was, she looked back, and what happened? She turned into a pillar of salt, all because she couldn't let go of the material things. She couldn't let go of this world. You see? This is the reason why us in this walk, we can't be distracted by, side missions, as the brothers say, right? Everything else besides that's not this truth or nothing but side missions, right? Trying to distract you, what was it? There was this one saying, can't remember how it goes, something along the lines of, don't let the rocks, or don't let the sirens steer you into the rocks, and that's talking about a ship. People that or sailors that used to sail in ships and stuff, they'll enter into these like misty, rocky areas, and the common thing was don't listen to the sirens. You know what I'm saying? The sirens were like demons that would try to seduce them into jumping overboard, or steering into the rocks, right? That's the thing. You can't steer. You can't let the sirens distract you, man. Otherwise, you're gonna crash, and hey, you're gonna have a sunken ship, man. That's what you always gotta maintain focus, right? Keep your eye on the prize. Don't let the troubles of this world. As a matter of fact, the scriptures talk about that. Talk about a soldier, right? It says, where is it at? Right here, 2 Timothy 2 and 4. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. Right? So no man that's at war. You're at war, right? That's what we are right now. We're in a spiritual battle. We shouldn't be concerning ourselves with what's going on back home, with the affairs of this life, right? A soldier that's at war, he's not concerned about what's going on back home, right? And if he does, what happens? He gets weak, he gets soft, and then he just wants to go home. He wants to go home and be with his wife and all this and that. No, man. Right? Your mind should be zoned in on the mission and task at hand. in this war. We're in war, man. We ain't the time to be resting and relaxing and chilling. No, man, we're in fucking war. The enemy has the reins right now. And he's constantly trying to bombard us with distractions, right? Fucking sending all kinds of pollution to on us, whether it be through the air, the water, the food, what they call it, the radio waves and all this shit. Because the battle that we're buying, that we're fighting, is not carnal, as the scripture says, right? It is a spiritual battle that's trying to steer you off course. Satan is trying to overthrow you in your mind. You don't want to be shipwrecked, right? Which is why you got to constantly keep your eye on the prize, constantly be examining yourself if your mindset is right and if it's aligned with the Lord. You see? Because ultimately, the labor that we're doing is going to be rewarded at the end of the day. We're going to receive that prize, right? Let me get this. 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 58. It says, "Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord." You see? Our labor is not in vain. Everything that we're doing is for a reason, has a purpose. Right? We're going to receive the victory. All we got to do is continue to, do what we got to do. Don't get weak. Always remember, hey, this is for a reason. We're doing all this for a reason. Right? And this kind of brings up 2nd Ezra 7 and I think it's 20 something. Bear with me. Right here. 2nd Ezra 7 and verse 18, it says, "Nevertheless, the righteous shall suffer straight things and hope for the wide. For they that have done wickedly have suffered the straight things and yet shall not see the wide." Right, because we're all going to go through shit. 2/3, these heathen nations, even the elect, we're all going to be going through straight things. We're going to be going through a position of difficulty. But we understand that, we're going to have that hope. We're going to have that faith, which is going to be the difference between us and the rest of the world, right? We know why we're going through what we're going through. You see? We have our eye on the prize. And that hope is going to get us through all this madness that we're about to go through, man. Right? Which is why it's key, to keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye fixed on the kingdom of heaven. Stay kingdom-minded, as the elders always say. Now, I want to get, let me get 2 Timothy 4 and verse 7. I don't want to make this too long. I'm going to close it off here in a minute. All I have is like one more verse. But this is 2 Timothy 4 and 7. It says, "I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them that also love his appearing." You see? So again, the prize is waiting for us, man. Just imagine that, man. Salvation, getting delivered up out of here in those chariots, in that big fathership that Yahushua is coming in, and then to be gathered up with the rest of the brothers in new bodies, man. And then being crowned, celebrating with the Lord, and then to be and then to be granted a position in the kingdom to where we're gonna rule and reign and have dominion over the earth and the nations. I mean, come on, man. This is the reason why it says in as we read right in 2 Corinthians 4:17 that our affliction is but for a moment, right? And that it worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory, right? And there's another verse that kind of correlates with that one. It goes along the lines of um, I can't remember exactly, but pretty much something along the lines of that, that we're gonna, this light affliction, or this, you know, uh, uh, uh this, I guess, yeah, light affliction, will work for us a greater um, prize or a greater reward. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let me see. Okay, that was it on this. Let me get from here. Um, as a matter of fact, let me go to 2nd Ezra 7 and verse 6. It says, "There is also another thing: a city is builded and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things. The entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire on the right hand, and on the left a deep water. And only one path between them both, even between the fire and the water, is so small that there could but one man go there at once." Right? So this is talking about the kingdom of heaven. This is a parable. You know what I'm saying? Now that path, like it says, is in between both fire and water. Both pretty much symbolize death. And that path is so small, as it says, that there could only go one man there at once, only one at a time. Pretty much, just telling you how tight that path is. Brothers always compare this to a tightrope. You got to be very careful how you step. But we're gonna go through certain obstacles in this path. This narrow path. There's gonna be certain things we're gonna have to jump over and leap over or go under, and kind of maneuver our way, to reach the end. It's gonna be a tough road, but at the end, it's gonna be worth it. You see? But the point being is that you can't concern yourself too much with what we're suffering here on this side. Like I mentioned, this is temporal. Just keep that in the back of your mind. This suffering is just temporal. Our hope should be strong enough to overshadow all the bad that we're going through on this side, or what seems to be bad. Because a lot of it is really good. It's good for you, to go through certain things, so that way you can. Because the Most High, what He's doing is that He's building us up. He's purifying us. He's making us better. He's polishing us. But it's kind of a painful process. But at the end, you're going to be better. You're going to be more sound. You're going to be in a position to where you're going to know what to do and know how to operate when all hell breaks loose. Right? Now, I want to close it off with this. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6 and verse 20. It says, "Therefore the desire of wisdom bringeth a kingdom. If your delight be in thrones and scepters, O ye kings of the people, honor wisdom, that ye may reign forevermore." You see? So the point being is that you got to keep this truth and hold on to this truth and apply it, and this is going to get you to the point where we need to be, right? So that we can enter into that kingdom, right? As it says, wisdom bring it to a kingdom. And like as it says right here in verse 21, if your delight be in thrones and scepters, if you want to be kings and, what I'm saying, reign and have dominion, have control over the earth and resources and stuff like that, hey, well, you're gonna have to, apply this wisdom and hang on to it until the Lord comes. That's how you stay kingdom minded, right? That's how you keep your eye on the prize, But anyway, I don't want to continue dragging this out. I pray this lesson was edifying. I'm going to go ahead and close it out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Racha HaKodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Until the next time, I'm going to say Shalom, Kwam Yasha Allah.